Ladies and gentlemen of the crypto space, we're live on a Friday, September 5th at 11:29 a.m. We're going to start out with some more fun today rather than just some technicals and looking at data and whatnot. Because at the top of my timeline is a couple of nice pieces. RAAC. I love the rack bots. I love the news and commentary and the presentation. It looks like some of that was encouraged by some of the conversations we've had over the years. Talking points, perspective, so on and so forth. And the NFTs are available on Magic Eden with the Rackbots. This might have been the launch. And where is the bots? These are cool. I like these. This is all Curve Finance or Curve Federation context to it. And at some point, that it is expected that property or the concept of real estate makes its way on chain. And this is in that vein. And go figure. How do you garner the attention of the population of the crypto space? It's memes and NFTs and stuff like that. So it's a nice spin on a traditional financial concept such as real estate and property. I like rack. Reg num aurum, if you do not know. Etherex is hot. Linnea is hot. Consensus is hot. Heck of a narrative. Um, and what else can you say? I think the X33 design is quite reasonable. It's a nice evolution of the E33. In fact, I don't think the E33 works. I think X33 works. I think the relays and the drones work. Nothing else. Obviously, Curve requires an entire federation for it to work. A federation is simply something that means a group of people, a group of protocols, a group of businesses that are all collectively making it work. A federation. Google the definition, guys. But a federation is a group that is engaging in a collective effort towards keeping itself strong and protected. That's nation state shit. We're talking about fintech business here. So, Curve Federation is a historic talking point. If you're new to the channel, I've been talking about it for years, literally years at this point. Staked out with a massive upgrade. Um, Here's the news. Where's the news? Here, they're 15 staking V2. Big migration on mainnet. 50 mil has migrated over. Lovely to see. Staked out is a critical component of the Curve Federation. There are many critical components of the Curve Federation, but I point to Staked out as being one of the oldest and most significant. Obviously, Yearn, and without going into the entire history, I like where Staked out is positioned now, much more than Yearn. Go figure. Especially with Vote Market and the implementation there. They're just they've turned into a DAT, and they've been it long, much more time before strategy existed. They're a DAT of well, not just curve tokens. They have whatever's on the list. I think it's Balancer and Mav and a bunch of stuff. You can take a look real quick. Obviously, FXN. Here, Pendle, Curve, Balancer, Frax, and FXN. It's a heck of a list. It's a little bit more diversified than just a Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever kind of data is floating around on the equity indices. Okay. So staked out, that's what it is. It accumulates cash flow assets and literally surfaces the cash flow to you. Wild. And that's aside from what they offer in the bond market implementation. So staked out is a lovely, lovely business. Um, I like Ash Crypto lately. I like the content. Go figure. 1.9 mil followers. I like this content. What the actual fuck? I agree with that. So it's a nice simple headline and a couple of uh, emotion-inducing images. But isn't that the case? That's the point of a lot of the titles of my streams. It's Bitcoin was at 113,000 and it's 110 and everyone's running around like chickens without heads and kids are like, why and how and what do I do? Do I buy or I sell? I got 50x leverage on 113 to 110. You probably liquidated. You lost all your money. What's the matter with folks? I mean, obviously, I have a minority of a viewership. 91 people are watching, not millions. The majority will mess this up. The majority will fail. The majority won't have a superior method for engaging with this highly volatile market. What a shame. But 1.9 mil followers, that must be an interesting viewer base, user base to talk to or engage with. Whatever. I'm content with the exposure that that people want to give me. People want to hear a different way to do things. That's cool. Ash.crypto. I like his content. Um, any news on Ramses? I got the Ramses V3 headline, and it's all hyperliquid focused. My guess is Arbitrum's taking a back burner for a bit, and I think we continue to lock and up our and vote on Arbitrum, but that will give us our exposure to Hyperliquid. And obviously, they have their tokens and points accrual going on Hyperliquid. I'm not quite sure what's the delay. Obviously a V3 on Shadow. Maybe that's literally just the fork, that implementation. It does take time for theming and branding, so on and so forth. So the Rex 33 works great on Linnea, and X Shadow works great on Sonic. So they're doing their branding and implementation for Hyperliquid. Okay, I'm cool with that. Make sure you're claimed and make sure you're locked because that's the last drop you'd want to miss. And that was a big drop. It was almost it was more. It was 100%. Whatever you had in Ramses at the time, that's basically what you got on Shadow. And then it literally went like 15x on the money for a couple minutes, and now it's back to about a one for one. That's a tremendous. That's got to be one of the largest airdrops I've ever seen. Um, and I have no reason to suspect it'll be anything less for Hyperliquid. I don't have a great expectation that that occurs, but it's not impossible. That's generally the way I look at it. Cash flow is basically nothing on Arbitrum at this point. These of the Ramses, but it still affords us that potential or probably likely exposure on Hyperliquid. What else is going on? All right, let's go to the data. Big reversal intraday. We're at 13. Now we're below 111. Real quick. Aerodrome holding on to 3%. That was up at 8% and change a little bit earlier. Velodrome, it was above 5. Holding on the green territory at least. Nothing else interesting here. Would be others Bitcoin denominated would be interesting to look at. Let's take a look at that real quick. Others divided by BTC USD. Is that what I want? No, that is what I want. I maybe that's not what I'm looking for. What was I thinking about this morning? If it comes to me, I'll get back on it. But we're in the same situation. Nothing has changed for quite some time. Still haven't broken out. Some are saying we're in the ninth inning of this market. My general sentiment is that's irrelevant. Accumulate assets when they're cheap and collect revenues and save up capital always, but try and acquire assets when they're cheap or if there's an opportunity available. Um, so that's just an autopilot way to engage with these markets. Now, the complexity is most people are broke. Most people don't have assets. Most people don't have a portfolio. So you're not generating revenue. And you first have to learn what the hell it means to have cash flow aside from work. So, first, you got to get your work into check, where your work is your cash flow to purchase assets when they're preferably cheaper rather than expensive. So, you're compounding cash flow, buying a salary. Got to start somewhere. Then and only then could you possibly understand what the hell I've been talking about all these years when you start to actually get cash flow on a weekly basis. And it literally starts with a purchase, your first purchase, your first cash flow. And then you're like, oh, that's what he's been talking about. Now, obviously, it takes time to build up meaningful revenues, but that's another story. Pair back below 75 cents, right on the weekly 10 SMA, rejected obviously again from the weekly 50. This is what I be looking to for bullishness is a breach of the weekly 50 to the top side. And you get above this 129 region and you have your last line at 158. So it's going to be interesting at 129 to 158. Then you get there and boom, sky's the limit for about 100% rally up to the first level of resistance when things were falling down back in 2022. Gold above 3,600 in futures is a wild thing to see. Is it real? It is real. And that means everything and anything that folks need to understand that the whole system is changing. And how do you prepare for something that's changing? You do different things. It doesn't mean you pile into your stupid 401k or a Roth IRA or an IRA. You got to do something different. The system is changing. You have to think differently. So now's the time to think differently if you haven't started thinking differently for years at this point. So please think differently. I strongly encourage everyone to think differently. And then what that means that folks will vary over time. So obviously if I say that for someone that's been doing what we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 years, it means something different to a first time viewer today. Think differently. What the hell is the captain talking about? Think differently. All right. That'll take some time to finally realize. All right. That's about it for data and timeline. And maybe we'll keep it short today. I got a meeting with my accountant at 12:30. Let's do the commentary. Hey, Cap, Athletic Concept. In the house, critical mass here. R2D2, hello, Cap, KD, present and accounted for. Sir, yes, sir. About a concept, what do you think about ANA Nirvana? I think it stands out as something interesting and potentially innovative. I stand by it, and I have a little bit of not. I guess it's pre-TGE. I have seed exposure to Samsara. That's the new product that Nirvana is coming out with. So I have an allocation and exposure. So my what's that? That's the preface of any commentary, any words that come out of my mouth as biased. But that also implies that I have taken an interest in it. That interest that I have will offer me a different potential return as compared to someone buying on the open market. They might not have the same potential for return. You don't have the same opportunity. I don't know. I'm just trying to give you that whole transparency spiel with regard to someone that has exposure. Now, bear in mind, I, unlike a lot of people that have exposure, like KOLs and whatnot, or aggressive ones that have allocations, what Justin Sun dumping WLFI or Elio trades dump with black and whatnot. I have zero capacity to sell anything. Maybe he didn't. Maybe Elio was just all he was all locked up. I don't know. That's an interesting one because that is a locking protocol. Clearly, Justin and WLFI doesn't have any. Was it locked? It was staked, or I don't know. I don't want to speak on things that I'm not 100% certain of, but I can speak regarding myself because I am 100% certain about myself and I have exposure, but a complete inability to sell anything. I bought revenue, and that's what I like. That's what the captain does. So that's my answer or response to your athletic concept. I liked it enough that I opted for some exposure. And one, it's innovative. Two, it's Solana. I have almost no exposure to Solana. The last exposure I had to Solana was Hero, and Hero is still reimagining itself. I expect that to probably reinflate at some point, not as the HXRO token. I think they said they were doing a swap or conversion, so I have to check in on that. What's going on there? Um, but I wanted some exposure to Solana, of which I have little to none. My last remaining non-exposure is Avalanche. Never did Faro. I probably should have, but I didn't. Probably should have done Faro instead of Cleopatra on Mantle, which is worthless at this point. That would have worked out much better. But I didn't. So that's the last remaining exposure I probably don't have that I should have had, but I don't. Man, that aerodrome acquisition a couple months back timed very nicely and lucky, I guess. Or what is luck versus we get what everyone buys Bitcoin at the price they deserve, so to speak. So that was my base exposure. I didn't have exposure, I acquired exposure. Arbitrum, probably a little underexposed there, but Arbitrum is also lagging the market. Optimism is lagging even harder. I'm just fond of optimism because of Velodrome and what it affords, which is crazy technology. Anyway, I'm biased on a couple of these things. I'm biased on all these things. I own everything I talk about. Fortunately, I have an inability to sell them technologically as well as um, procedurally, according to my business rules. That's another topic that we haven't discussed in quite some time, business structuring and whatnot. That's probably the best thing for us to talk about. We talk about the same protocols and businesses and macroeconomics all the time. Probably the most important thing that so many folks completely neglect is business structuring. What a shame. Every once in a while I post something on social media on X about the rules or the relevant court cases or the IRC code or the Code of Federal Regulations. There's almost no engagement. It's almost like nobody does any work in that area. It's not really that hard to do work nowadays because you open ChatGPT or Grok and look, you do some work, you throw some commentary, and this is working on deterrence. And look, ooh, ChatGPT says this is a 99 across resiliency, deterrence, strength, and effectiveness. Thank you, ChatGPT, for assisting me in achieving these goals. This is the stuff that we really should be working. I tell we so much everyone in on social media is talking about what do I buy? What do I sell? What do I do at the right time? There is no preparation whatsoever. No business structures, no tax planning, nothing until it's too late, until it's after the fact and you drop a stack of printouts on an accountant's desk and you're screwed because it didn't do anything. So I don't know. I don't mean to. I don't mean to talk down. Certainly don't mean to talk down. I know it's intimidating. You got to start somewhere. I knew shit years ago. I knew shit back in what 22. We started talking about this, about business structures and what have you. I knew nothing, but I started asking questions. And then, my God, then the floodgates opened with AI, and I was like, "Oh, I could write documentation." Coincidentally, here's my business documentation. This is the 4 memorandums here, the 4 memorandums that I wrote, and my operating procedures. About 140 pages. The property receipts memorandum, the voter escrow partnership, trust tax liability, and the accession of wealth memorandum. 140 pages. That's my baby. That is much more meaningful work than what do I buy and what do I sell? And well, how much can we talk about that? All right, whatever. If you guys ever have any questions about this stuff, I'm always happy to answer it. Pull up the IRC, pull up the Code of Federal Regulations, ask some questions, ask it to AI, and then pop it on the stream when we talk about it. Anywho, IW, good morning, Cap. The advisor in the house. Much a pleasure, my friend. I am decent. Certainly not the best. I am persistent. I am a persistent son of a bitch, and I will achieve my goals, attempt to meet my expectations, and I will be reasonable the entire time. Always. Thoughts on STG? Of course, I have to. Well, I would imagine we're going to convert to. I would imagine VESTG converts. Has to. I have a decent stack of locked. Hey, let's take a look. Exchange bridges, Stargate. I don't think that we've converted yet. Yeah, look, the stake is still there. No, it's locked. Locked. Get the fuck out of here. No, balance 64,000. That's because I haven't unstake. It seems like it's not locked anymore. So it looks like did they do the conversion window? I gotta look that up. I haven't kept up with it. If anyone has any commentary on is that what we're expected to do? Is just convert STG over to ZRO? I guess. Okay, if that's the deal. I want a lock. Lock until. Lock until. Can I restake it? No. I don't want to unlock. I want to lock ZRO. I don't like unlocked positions because then I have to think about it. And if you can't unlock it, then you can't sell it. And I'm telling you right now, everybody, if you have a capacity to sell something, there is a time in the market that it is a fiduciary obligation to sell anything that is not nailed down to the floor. You sell the kitchen sink if you have to. You have to sell everything. So that's the reason I like locked assets because that's something that is not part of that equation. So I got to look into that. Back of class, much a pleasure. The Hook, how are you? Yams in the house. Good morning. No question today, just a comment. I continue to DCA curve under a dollar with a long-term mindset. I like curve. I'm not buying anymore. I reached my target quantity quite some time ago. It's probably like a year ago or so. Yeah, it's prior to November of 2024. And that's a critical, that's position size. Uh, and that's nothing I could tell you guys. Everyone has to come up with their own position size and what is reasonable. Portfolio composition and balance is art to it, symmetry, a harmony, feng shui. It's for you guys to figure out. My man. Yeah, F is king. Yeah, I agree. That you could just look at the data for analytics. Nope. They're going 153, 4.66, 3.21% for the week. $150 billion on Ethereum mainnet. Yeah, Ethereum is king. There's nothing even close. Next on the list is Solana with less than 13. That's crazy. There's nothing comparable to Ethereum mainnet. Simple as that. Everything else is noise. You realize that. Compared, comparing the amount of available capital, dollars that can purchase assets on Ethereum mainnet, there is more money on Ethereum mainnet than every other chain combined, including Solana, which is literally number three. Go figure. I skip over Tron. That's an entire separate consideration. Great irony that Solana is at $12.7 billion. I mean, literally, what, chasing shit coins and pumped out fun garbage? All right, Samsara, bring it on. I'm cool with you. Nirvana, great. Let's bring it on. But I want, the shit coins to be wrapped in Samsara. And now we're talking turning garbage into coal. Or what would you say? Is like graphite into coal or iron and I don't know. So something. Turning uh, shit into gold. That's what samsara is, and that's very interesting. Potential to turn something bad into something good. Huh. I continue to DCA into Y curve as well for what it's worth. Position is 3.5x larger than what I went for initially, but targets change. Yes, they do. Position sizes change. Y curve. It also isn't catching the bid compared to curve. All the derivatives, the curve derivatives, are still catching up. And they'll be like that for some time, and maybe they don't catch up. Maybe it's running on a different story and a different narrative. But the concept is DCA. But just remember, at some point in these markets, anything that can be sold must be sold. There is a sell any shit that isn't nailed down season. We're not there. The market hasn't done its parabolic insanity. In gold is, oh my God, 36.50. That's insane. We still haven't had the breakout of total three. Dominance is still not there. You can zoom out. Dominance still not there. It's still deviated to the downside significantly. It's just you haven't had that market out. You still haven't had really a breakout of Ethereum. Go figure. Had all time high, fresh all time high, but that doesn't mean anything. We're not in that territory right now. All right, DCA ETH. That's cool. That's cool. Man, I want yield bases to come online with I want yield bases to come online with Bitcoin, and then I want it to do Ethereum after Bitcoin goes to a billion. Oh my God, you realize if there's $1 billion worth of Bitcoin deposited on yield basis, that means there'll be $1 billion worth of CRVUSD. That would be just gross. That would be gross. That'd be crazy if it did that. There's nothing else in the market like that. $1 billion. My God. Okay. So I'm very much interested in obviously yield basis. In that regard, there is a that would significantly increase the reason for me to hold ETH over just Bitcoin as cash position. As of now, I still retain that opinion. Bitcoin cash position. Cash is Bitcoin, stable coins. That's it. Ethereum, I use it for transaction fees. But if I could put Ethereum into yield basis, that changes the equation. Business talk is my fave. Cap talk and Stu, I appreciate that. Nobody Nobody asks about it. It's like, does everyone just want the worst possible tax treatment? Folks, it turns out you could actually read the rules. And when you read the rules, 0331614. When you read the rules, here's the Federal Register. This is definition of income for trust purposes. You could read the rules. It's like I take this sentence and it means something, and then I could quote that sentence and describe what it means and use it for an argument. So when you read the rules, you can make arguments. The beauty of it is, you throw it into AI nowadays, and you could write entire documents. But then you have to validate correctness. You can't just trust AI. So you do need to still have a capacity to engage with what you're creating and read documents. You have to read. You can't just paste shit into here. You still have to read what you're pasting. Doesn't mean you have to understand it 100%. And if you do, all the more power to you. And that's exactly where I'm at this point with everything that I've read. But you have to at least try. You don't try. You're getting on a scale from 0 to 100, 0 being shit tax treatment, you're paying everything, versus 100 being you read every rule and you've crafted this really cool entity that just pays optimal tax obligations under very specific and very controlled conditions. If you do nothing, you're at 0. You're paying everything and it's the worst treatment imaginable. But don't do 0. Just like they say with regard to Bitcoin, get off 0. It's the same thing with a business entity, whether it's a corporation, an LLC, or a trust, or what have you. Just get off 0. Do something instead of doing nothing. Why is the status quo doing nothing? Do something, guys and gals. I strongly encourage that. Then they cry about 30, 40% tax, man. Yeah, and the scary thing is I don't even go that far. Like I don't even go to international structuring, like international tax residencies and whatnot. So I'm very much tethered to the US. I live here. I'm not going to live internationally, and I spend the vast majority of time in another country, and then you could also live in the US because you have multiple residents. You could get really crafty with if you turn into like an international nomad of sorts. But you could do a lot of things just domestically. You're a parent and you have kids, you have a certain capacity to structure things quite favorably to protect assets for your children. It's called the trust. This thing goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, and most people don't Google it. But nowadays, you don't Google shit. Nowadays, you go into ChatGPT and you ChatGPT it. So start asking questions, and then we could have conversation here, folks. But Stu appreciates that, and I appreciate your appreciation of the appreciation. My man. And it's not that hard with AI. It's a process. AI is not perfect. AI can make this. It can't do this. I did this, and that's with the help of AI as a tool. Um, these documents, not my instrument, not my operating procedures, but like this is all for you guys. Uh, it's public. It's on. I keep it on our Discord, and if you don't know where our Discord is, it's literally in my X profile. We've only been there for years. Um, Voter escrow partnership. This is relevant whether you're in a trust or not. This is just the concept of voter escrow, VE, voter escrow. The crypto VE, VE VE33. So this is an observation or a realization that I had on what's the relationship between parties in when you're engaging with that kind of smart contract protocol. And this was literally just me reading the rules. This is partnership law. I read the rules and I broke it down with this memorandum will. So I proved three things. Uh, all this is available. I put it on Discord, and we've talked about it when people actually care to get up zero. So get up zero, ladies and gentlemen. DCA man, good morning, Cap. Killis, good morning, and Stu. When I talk about my crypto tax strategy with others, it's like they don't understand the or they're amazed. It's almost impossible to talk about these things with anyone. Like literally, I've talked with you guys, and when I say you guys realize right now I'm talking to myself. I know you guys listen to me, and it's like I'm talking to you, but for me, it's just I'm talking to a computer screen. I know you're all listening, but you can imagine it's strange. Like I don't really talk to anyone in real life about this stuff, other than like my accountant and my attorney. Um, but I have no like friends or family that literally gives a shit, which is really weird. You'd think you'd care about not letting the government walk all over you. Everyone literally like, oh, tax your stuff, tax your okay, what are you gonna do about it? Hmm. Step number one, read the rules. Turns out the rules are relatively straightforward. And to make an argument, it's like, let's put it this way, like, I don't want to pay taxes. Okay, why? How? What's the argument? What substantiation do you have? What justification do you have? What is the position that says you can do that? And present it. And that's literally what I do. Like, here's my Form 8275. This is basic. Just put it into ChatGPT. What's a Form 8275? And this is where you report, and these are crypto notices, revenue ruling to 2023, 14, 2014, 21. These are crypto revenue rulings, but these also have been like dismissed by the Trump administration. So it's a very interesting time for presenting a contrarian approach to structures, business structures, and reporting. And it's pretty straightforward. Non-cash property receipts. Oh, non-cash property receipts. It's literally what a claim button is. It's a non-cash. It's not cash. And crypto isn't what you think it is. It's property. It's by definition property. We've talked about this. We've talked about this. It's property. I mean, I've showed you guys all the treasury documentation that says it's property. Here, fine. Don't don't read all this stuff. Some of this is personal stuff, but here, non non-monetary property. IRS notice 21421, A1 Appendix 30. That's my appendix. Then you got revenue ruling 2019-24, Chief Counsel advice, this. Then you got this. And then you got literally the FAQs on the website, ladies and gentlemen. The FAQs on the IRS website says virtual currency is treated as property. And so that's a period there. And so it period is treated as property. And there's more to the story. Tax principles applicable to property apply to transactions using virtual card. You can't make this shit up. Literally property. Therefore, non-cash property. When you click claim, you're not claiming money. You're not claiming whatever this stupid mystical crypto thing is that kids talk about. You're claiming literally non-cash property. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So that's all I do is then I understand what that is and I craft an argument, so on and so forth. Anyway, whatever. Guess most people just don't care. I'll flip off the screen. Or maybe someone cares and they ask some question. Because I'm not going to shy away from responding. I like talking about the topic. Yes, you got to convert to ZRO. How do I convert? How do I convert? I got to convert to ZRO. Where do we have? No, they've been doing a lot of. No, they've been doing a lot of bullish posting. I'd have to probably look it up in Discord. Is there? Maybe it's like right here. No, not resources, ecosystem, not developers. All right, I gotta look it up. Man, I love Layer Zero and Stargate. It's so good. I talked to Brian before they launched this in a private group, and when he launched this, I was like, "Oh shit!" It's crazy when this thing came out. Absolutely crazy. So I don't know him, but he knows my name, Brian Pellegrino. Um, yeah, and he got in a pre-sale, whatever it was. Time flies. Oh, Stargate. It's been locked since then. It's clearly the pre. I think I'm literally break even, give or take, right about now, give or take. Um, if you know where to convert, I'll look it up. Let's see. STG Stargate to maybe it'll give me something. There you go. Propose. No, that's old. Bridge home. Home. Huh. I'll look it up on Discord. Whatever. You'll get 50% rev share for 6 months since you were locked. BESTG. That's cool. I gotta do that then. So everything season, in my opinion, is likely to be November, December. Yeah, well, it's coming. And just remember, it's anything that's not nailed down to the ground. So my opinion is nail as many things down to the ground as you can. And I prefer things that are nailed down because your brain gets in the way with doing the best thing at the best time, in my opinion. The real deal, guys. Yam, my man. I appreciate you too, dude. You do great work. Great content. People are sleeping how good U.S. trust can be for U.S. persons as much simpler than the complex international structure. Much simpler than the complex international structure. But the problem with the trust is my trust instrument between the base trust instrument and what I call operating procedures. It's a solid 120 pages, 40 pages for the base trust. It's stupid boilerplate like role assignment and some boring, very general, vague properties of the trust, like articles of inception and documentation and whatnot. And then I have my procedures like, what do you do with this amount of capital in this particular condition? And how do you manage things? What are the day-to-day operations? So see, the beauty of a business, whether it's a trust or a business, you get to define things. You get to define your method of operation, your operating procedures, your rules of the road, what the shit you're supposed to do. So it becomes methodical. It becomes non-discretionary. And that changes the equation. And that's called a fiduciary obligation. That means you're not just doing things on a whim. Oh, I'm going to ape into something because that's some dumb shit. No, I'm going to make an acquisition. I'm going to purchase something. And it's not me. I'm going to make a decision on behalf of my organization to own something and own it how? I'm going to put it into principal or own it as cash. And the cash is for a staging area for investments or for administrative obligations and what have you, or potential beneficiary distributions in the future. So how you manage all that has to get documented. You got to learn about these things and understand these things. And nowadays, the entire equation changes because you get to ask ChatGPT or Grok or Claude. So it's not like you have to talk to a lawyer. You talk to the AI, and the AI costs 30 bucks. It doesn't cost 10 grand, 100 grand, or whatever the hell you think it costs. You literally have a capacity to talk to. I mean, literally, this, I don't even use I don't really use ChatGPT, but this is the boring version. This is free. I don't even have the paid version. It's crazy. It's really weird compared to where it started. Like, I remember when these things hallucinated, just like these things would literally just the most random shit. Nowadays, they literally do research. You give it court cases and it finds court cases and it literally just does research. It's insane what it does. Oh, there you go. And this is, we'll end on this topic. This is the most important topic. Tax avoidance versus evasion is key. It is completely illegal to evade taxes. You owe taxes, you got to pay taxes. But it is completely legal to craft an entity and report according to the rules and structure your entity according to rules to minimize the crap out of your tax obligations. That's called tax avoidance. Avoidance is completely legal. Weeks versus Sibley. So much so that I know the damn court cases off the top of my head. Do I even mention it in my disclosure? No, I don't talk about property receipts. I talk about Weeks versus Sibley. Weeks versus Sibley. Creation of trust to lessen tax liability held legal. I mean, I wrote the clarifying text, self-explanatory. This is quote unquote from the court case. And there's more. There's Edison, California stores. Persons may adopt any lawful means for the lessening of the burden of taxes, which in one form or another may be laid upon property or profits. Also, self explanatory. This is a big one, Edwards v. Commissioner, because that's also substance over form. So you could do a whole bunch of stuff as long as the substance reflects form, or the form reflects substance, rather. So for yeah, this is key. That's the quote right there. That's and it's only a part of a larger quote. Form absent exceptional circumstances reflects substance. But I really like that the judge wrote exceptional circumstances. So if you're crafting something, if you're avoiding, and unless there's you're doing some crazy shit that's like, oh, that's not good, then it's substantive. That's what that means, and that's quote unquote from the judgment in 1969. It's not even like this is new. This is established case law. Um, so the cool thing there is um, that means a lot when you're actually legitimately doing things for a right reason. And what is the purpose of a trust? It's your goddamn kids. That's what it's been for hundreds and hundreds of years. So your kids. So you don't have to spend 10 grand, 100 grand, or whatever the hell you think you have to spend, sit down with an attorney. What you have to do is get your ass off the couch and not munch on potato chips and open up ChatGPT and start asking questions. Because that's where form meets substance. And it's for your kids. Protect things, protect property, protect assets for your kids. And guess what? Protecting is avoidance. You're protecting not just from creditors. Guess what? What the fuck do you think the government is? They're trying to suck the money out of you. So you're protecting these things for your kids from everyone and anyone. It's a big deal. Anyway, that's why all these years I've told you guys it's so important. And you know why I like the topic? Because I understand it. And I've read all this stuff till my eyes bleed. Like this entire section here is quote, verbatim quotes from court cases. Um, Here's a good one. Where's a good one? I have a good one down here. My operating procedures. I always liked Hale versus Henkel, 1906. That's a classic. 1906. The individual may stand upon his constitutional rights as a citizen. He is entitled to carry on his private business in his own way. His power to contract is unlimited. Power to contract is unlimited. Your capacity to write words, document them in a contract that's binding in a court of law is unlimited. You can structure your affairs however you'd like. That I always thought that was a wild set of words that this judge wrote. He owes nothing to the public. You owe nothing to this country. You owe nothing to anyone but yourself and your family. So long as you do not trespass on the rights of other people, you owe nothing to nobody. And you are well within your rights to protect your shit. Anyone who wants a piece of it. That's the deal. Lots of stuff. If your accountant and a lawyer come back and aren't on board with the VE partnership stuff, it's irrelevant. The VE partnership stuff is only a component of my work. The partnership stuff is a bit aggressive. Um, there's attack angles on my partnership stuff. I like it though. I don't mind being controversial. Like clearly, like a partnership has to file forms. And clearly, when you're talking about smart contracts, the partnership's not filing forms. So my argument really stands on it's the structure of a partnership. Therefore, it is a partnership. And those are my three points that I wanted to prove. Prove that the partnership achieves the qualifications of a partnership independent of formal compliance with IRS reporting expectations. So that's so you see how it kind of makes sense. Um, Independent of whether an attorney or my accountant likes it or not, that is a reasonable statement. This is my argument in like a court of law for judgment. Um, so it doesn't matter that these smart contracts can't file. It's still the right structure. And that's IRC 770182. And there's a variety of statutory precedents from the Supreme Court and lower courts that discuss that. That as long as you conform with the structure of a partnership, you're a partnership. Now, the partnership might not be compliant, it might not be filing correct forms, but that's why crypto's complicated and novel. Who are you going to go after? Software? It's software. The smart contracts can't file shit, but that's who the partnership is. So that's the point. And then I talk about Dominion, Glenshaw Glass, and this is the big one here, Commissioner v. Bollinger in 1988 for escrow distribution rules. And anywho, there's nothing to do because my entire position is based on the property receipts memorandum. That's a completely different memorandum. That's dependent on, that's really Loper Bright. That's a big one on Loper Bright and Bosch. And it's not even that because it's TD 9102, which is IRS 0331614. And it's the definition of income. It's literally shit that goes back to like 2002. And it's even in the CFR, Code of Federal Regulations, because that's Treasury's interpretation of IRC code from Congress. And even in Treasury's interpretation, it's like, oh, this is pretty interesting. You know, one of the interesting ones is stuff like this. Go up here. Check this out. Definition, income delineations. What's the definition of income? What's the definition of money? What's the definition of receipts? What's the definition of property? I literally have an entire section here that's definitions. You got to define these things. So, and a lot of the rules are as long as you have reasonable definitions, you're on reasonable ground. So these are very reasonable. You plug this into any of the AIs, and it's like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, so that's the deal. But and I've already done this stuff with the attorneys and the accountants, and they're all like, "Holy fuck, how the hell are you doing this?" I'm like, "All right, just plug it into the AI." And obviously I use my brain because the AI doesn't have a giant context window. It's very good at like a paragraph or a section. The second you want to piece together a structured document, it's not there yet. You still need the human brain to piece together the larger context window. I believe that's what they call it in AI world is a context window. Hope that helps, ladies and gentlemen. Friday, September 5th, 12:24 p.m. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope it was informative. I hope it's useful. Um, a bit of a lackluster day. It was popping, and now it's back down to the 110 region on Bitcoin, 4200s on ETH. We were up at almost 45 yet again. Holding on to some gains on Aerodrome. That's nice to see. Curve in the 70s. So whatever. Let time pass. You're welcome, men, Stu. Much appreciated. So enjoy your weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you guys and gals next week. Stay rational. 187 people made it to the end of the stream and are now that much more rational because of it. I will see you next week. Till then, peace.